Hello everyone, welcome to this video. I hope you can hear me okay, and I hope you cannot hear the construction work outside. Today we'll be doing a little video where we take a bunch of random fictional characters and we decide what D&D class they would be. Let's see, there's a bunch of characters. There's a class or two missing, there's no monk, and let's see, range and rogue are in the same category. Interesting. Okay, but they sounded fun, and I was actually thinking about this yesterday. I watched Lord of the Rings, I watched The Return of the King at the cinema, and it was like, I need to do a video of something like that, because all these characters are just like D&D staples. Like, D&D would not exist without Lord of the Rings. Um, so yeah, I hope you enjoy. Sit back, relax, hit that bell and the subscribe and like button if you'd like. I'd very much like that. So we'll start off with Aragorn. People's first instinct is to put him in fighter, and that makes sense. That's my first instinct as well, because he is a great fighter. But I've seen many an arguments to put Aragorn in the ranger category, and I think that actually works really well for Aragorn. He is very much he uses a bow quite a lot, which fighters can use a bow, by the way. He's not a big shield guy. He's a great fighter. That's the thing. I think he is a better fighter than Rangers would deserve, but I feel like he shares a lot of traits with Rangers. He's great with nature. He's very much in touch with nature, with plants, with healing, stuff like that. Maybe some minor magic combined, like to heal people. So I think Aragorn as a ranger works really well. He's definitely a very aggressive ranger who only uses his bow as a sort of ranged option, but will be able to fight his way out of any situation. So the only issue though is he would need proficiency in like long swords. Does he? Yeah, he would need that, and maybe it's like a strength ranger build, which is a bit of a strange one. But Aragorn is a ranger. Then next up is a very wonderfully cropped picture of Luigi. What do we do with Luigi? Okay, let's see. He jumps on people to kill them. He can shoot fireballs, but he also hunts ghosts. Would you say he performs exorcisms to hunt ghosts? Is Luigi a paladin? Or a cleric? Clerics can cast fireball, right? Clerics can cast fireball, so I think Luigi as a cleric makes sense. Purging ghosts and the undead in favor of bringing peace? Why does he do it? Because he's nice. Luigi is a good person. I think that fits with his whole cleric persona. Let's see. He's not selfish. He's a bit cowardice. He's a bit of a coward. Does that fit with clerics? You know, it can do. Sure, it can do. Yeah, Luigi as a cleric. I'm happy with Luigi as a cleric. Then next up we have Bilbo. I mean, Bilbo is a rogue. Bilbo is a rogue thief. That's it. I would love to give a deeper analysis, but there isn't. Bilbo's a rogue thief. Walter White. So obviously for Walter I was thinking artificer, but there's no artificer option. So I'm gonna go a bit wild. Not that wild maybe. I'm gonna say wizard with a strong focus on alchemy. Because he's smart. You can say whatever you want about Walter, but he's smart, and you know, he's old and a bit grumpy, which I think fits a wizard stereotype. So Walter White is a wizard, and no one can tell me otherwise, okay? Walter White is the pinnacle of a wizard. And you know, the thing is, he's taught himself everything. Maybe he hasn't taught himself everything, but he got all his skills through learning. He's not a sorcerer. He didn't just get his powers. He's been studying his entire life to get where he is now. Walter White is a wizard. He's more wizard than anyone else. He's more wizard than someone else you'll see later who you'd think is a wizard. Next up is Mario. Now, while you'd be inclined to say cleric as well, because he can also cast fireball. He's basically Luigi, but he doesn't hunt ghosts, though sometimes. But I'm not going to say cleric for Mario. I'm going to say his ability to cast fireball comes from him being a Nepo baby. The thing is, Mario doesn't work very hard for anything. We can even go so far as to say that the player controls him. Something else gives him power. As a pact. We can have fun with Mario, and we give him the power to kill whoever he wants. That reminds me of a certain class. Mario is a warlock. There are no holes in my theory. This is the definitive edition of this tier list. Mario is a warlock, and no one can tell me otherwise. Yes, Mario the warlock and his brother Luigi the cleric. It's, it's even thematically, it works, everything about this, it's perfect. Next up is Blade, and obviously Blade is a blood hunter, obviously. But if he's not, I'm inclined to say fighter, but maybe he's also a ranger. Would he be a ranger? No, I'm gonna say fighter because I feel like he's such a strong fighter, and does he heal? He does have a healing, he does heal. I had to Google it because I kind of forgot. I knew it, but I wasn't sure. Blade, yes, he heals, and I mean, of course, there's Second Wind. He's a great fighter. He fights with a blade. Really, guns don't feel very fightery, do they? Artificer, fighter, multi-classes, fighter and artificer. So yeah, if the artificer was here, I would slice him in half. Fighter, artificer, multi-class. But there is no artificer anyways, and I don't have a blade to cut blades in half. Moving on to Michael Scott, and I think this is one of the easiest ones. He is easily a bard, right? Maybe not a bard that everyone likes, but he is charismatic when he needs to be. He makes a lot of jokes, mainly about sex, so that works. He tries to play a few instruments throughout the show, maybe just the steel drums.
Feeling hot, hot, hot. Feeling hot, hot, hot. Feeling hot, hot, hot. Feeling hot, hot, hot.
Are there other instruments he tries to play? It doesn't matter. He likes music. He listens to a very specific part of a very specific song when he's sad. So he likes music. And he is a fun, charismatic little man who doesn't have anything better to do with his life than to make jokes. So Michael is a bard. Daenerys, and people are going to hate me over this. I know Daenerys has a strong fan base, and I love Game of Thrones, don't get me wrong, and Daenerys is a great character, but her whole storyline depends on her being a Nepo baby. Her whole bloodline, her whole ability to survive fire, to get dragons on her side, to ride the dragons, and her claim to the throne, it's all riding on her being a Nepo baby. So Daenerys is a sorcerer. She doesn't really have many sorceress abilities, though you could even say she's a dragonborn sorcerer, popular combination. And you could say that, the dragons are an extension of her abilities. She is a sorcerer. She just chooses to go the pacifist route for most of her life and then suddenly kill everyone when she's level 20. So, spoiler alert, I guess, if you haven't heard, Daenerys does some bad things. So yeah, that's Daenerys. Darth Vader. Now, my first choice would be Paladin, because this man, he's not just strong, he's also tanky, and he can take on anything and anyone. He has the Force, and he is very strong in the Force. Darth Vader being a Paladin, I was briefly going to go for Sorcerer as well, because all Jedi are born with the Force, but they have to learn how to channel it, and I think that is very... And I think Darth Vader as Anakin, he goes from an Oath of Vengeance Paladin maybe to an Oath Breaker Paladin. Maybe? I don't know. He pledges multiple oaths throughout the films. He starts as Anakin, pledges is definitely Oath of Vengeance Paladin though, and then he pledges himself to the light side and then to the dark side. Yes, he must be a Paladin, right? There's no way. Like, what else is going to be a druid? That'd be funny. Yeah, Paladin Anakin. That works. Pelican. It even sounds good. Elsa. Now, this is going to be shocking. I don't know. Elsa gets her magic powers from a curse that she doesn't want to be part of. And while technically that can happen to sorcerers, they can get their powers in any way they want. Elsa, however, I think is a warlock. And I love that this is like the second cartoony character that is our second warlock. She has to be a warlock. She may not like that she has submitted herself to this powerful being, though has she submitted herself to a powerful being that gives her powers? Is she a sorcerer? She might be a sorcerer, but she hates that she has her powers. She's very powerful, and she can't really control. She is a wild magic sorcerer. My goodness. Yes! Elsa is a wild magic sorcerer. Of course. She can't control it. Elsa is a wild magic sorcerer. That's it. Yeah, perfect. Flawless. I know. Thank you. I agree. Next, Frozone. Ooh, Frozone. What are you, Frozone? I don't actually know. Is he a wizard? Has he? No, because all the superheroes... Ooh, I don't know my Incredibles lore that well, in all honesty. Is he also a sorcerer? Is this the second ice-themed sorcerer? It's a song of ice and fire. Nice. Is he a sorcerer? Would you say he's a sorcerer? But he's so quick and nimble. That's not really the vibe I get from sorcerers. Is he maybe... No, he's not a druid. It's not really giving wild shape. I'm not sure. This one's tricky. Because he uses his magic, but he's not the most powerful magic user. And he... is he even in the second film? I've seen both of them, obviously, but it's been a while. Is he even in the second film? In the first film, he's more of a distraction rather than actually, a powerful being. And for that, I want to say he's not a sorcerer, because a sorcerer by themselves can be incredibly powerful and take on big enemies, but a druid... But I feel like he doesn't align... you don't have to wild shape to be a druid. This is hard. Frozone, why are you here? But he's cool. What's like a cool character type? Like rogues? Rogues are more edgy. I feel like paladins are cool. He's not really giving paladin though. Is he a bard? Is Frozone a bard? He is kind of a support-like character. I mean, he isn't, but he is, if that makes sense. He's charismatic? Maybe that's just Samuel L. Jackson, but who knows? And he is much more about locking his targets down and letting others deal damage rather than dealing damage himself. But he's not very instrumental. I'm going to keep him in Sorcerer. Even though I feel like he doesn't really fit the Sorcerer vibe, I like that there's now 2 ice characters and 1 fire, and then there's Game of Thrones. Yes, I like that. So I'm going to keep him there for no other reason. Next up is Gandalf. Now, listen, Gandalf, obviously first instinct wizard. No. He didn't learn, he didn't study to get his power. He got his power. He has it. And he also is not a sorcerer. Because, yes, he is very powerful. He's a very powerful magic user. Even though in the films we don't see it as much. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings nerd. Like, don't get me started on Gandalf's lore. I'm going to get started on Gandalf's lore, but not too much. He's a great magic user. But he also uses his melee weapons. Even uses a staff as a melee weapon. I'm going to say he's a cleric, because his power comes from the divine. Like, if you don't know, Gandalf is basically an angel. He's like a demigod. So Gandalf would never be a D&D class. Like, he would be, if anything, he is the being that your cleric worships. But to make sense of this list, Gandalf's going to be a cleric, because he is great in hand-to-hand combat. He is a great fighter. Like, honestly, Gandalf would do well in any of these classes. If we had Radagast, that'd be a druid, obviously. But he's not on here, unfortunately. Gandalf is a cleric. He would do well as a druid. I think he is very much in tune with nature. But just because his powers come from the divine. Though, there is something to argue that in Tolkien's universe, nature resembles divine power. So, he would make sense as a druid as well, I will say. More so as a druid than as a sorcerer, I think. But I'm going to say that because he's great in melee combat and he's a divine being, he's a cleric. Gimli. Now, I mean, this is going to have to be a barbarian. Like, there's no way around it. Maybe he would be a fighter, but just because he uses an axe, I'm going to say he's a barbarian. He's great. He's tanky. That's the thing about Gimli and all the dwarves. He's tanky. Though, you know what? I think a lot of their tankiness comes from being well armored and not so much from being like damage sponges themselves. So that actually, does that make him a fighter? Is Gimli a fighter? Yeah, I'm gonna say he's a fighter because he's well armored. I know that every part of me is screaming, and every part of you as well is screaming at me to put him in barbarian. But it's not like he rages to become a barbarian. You know, he doesn't rage. He's just a good fighter. Yeah, I'll keep him. I'll keep him a fighter. I think he works as a fighter. Actually, he works really well as a fighter. Han Solo. Oh my goodness, I don't know. Like a rogue, like a ranger. Okay, let's think about this. Okay, charismatic, but not overly charismatic. Shady, that's giving rogue. Thief, smuggler, giving rogue. But also decent in a fight, though you wouldn't, he's not exceptional in like a one-on-one fight. Yeah, I think a rogue works for Han Solo. More than any of the others, at least. Right, yeah, he must be. Yeah, that's all there is to him. I'm sorry, that's it. Harry Potter? I mean, he has to be a sorcerer. That's kind of the only thing. Again, like, I know he's a wizard. You had a wizard... Oh, cut that, please. So, I'm being serious if you don't cut that. Cut it. Me in the future, you have to cut it. Cool. Am I still recording? He's a sorcerer. He can only be a sorcerer. He just got his magic powers from being the child of 2 wizards. He's a sorcerer. Yeah. Just a plain old sorcerer. Who, yeah, uses very specific spells. That is the only thing. You know what? I will say there is an argument to be made that he's a wizard, because he did have to learn a lot of spells, and he had to learn alchemy. He makes a bunch of potions. Does he make the potions? He's, partially responsible for the creation of potions, at least. He goes through a whole thing with Snape, with learning how to make potions, and he does learn. But I think the thing is, a lot of his power and his mythology almost comes from him just being, again, a nepo baby. Not even a nepo baby, just like his legacy, like being, he's kind of the chosen one. But he did learn, and it's not like he is actually an exceptional wizard. He's just kind of around, and then is strong against Voldemort. But that's more because he's the chosen one, rather than... In general, he's not a very strong wizard. He might... You know what? I think there's an argument to be made that he's a wizard. He just had the potential... And that's the thing. If he'd never learned how to do magic, he wouldn't be able to just do it. Yeah, you know what? I started thinking that he would be a sorcerer, but he's going to be a wizard. Hulk. I mean, barbarian. Do I need to say anything, really? Hulk's a barbarian. His whole thing is raging and becoming stronger. Like, barbarian. Indiana Jones. Fighter? Ranger? Is this just going to be the Harrison Ford tier? Is he anything? He's sort of charismatic. He's good with a whip, which is a dex weapon. He's kind of quick and nimble and smart, but he's not exceptional in like combat. He's good enough, but he's not great. He must be a ranger just because of the whip. But I don't think he's very much a very defined class. He would be an NPC. He would be like just a bog standard NPC monster. Not even a monster, just something you would throw at your characters in like a wave of 27, and then one fireball would kill them all. Sure, he's a ranger, but he's not a very good one. James Bond. Now see, this one's interesting, because the first instinct again is to go for a rogue. But I feel like James Bond, yes, he does a lot of things through being sneaky and like cool shootouts and explosions and stuff, and that fits the cool factor of rangers and rogues. But I feel like he does a lot of things with his charisma. A lot of things he actually solves without violence. That's not the image he has, I think, but at least in the older Bond films, a big part of him was his charisma. And he's not a bard. I cannot do it. I cannot put him in bard. I'm not going to put James Bond in the bard tier. However, he's charismatic. But you will not see a bard absolutely annihilating someone, or like winning in a one-on-one fight. So he's not going to go in bard. What's another? He's not a warlock. Though you might say that he is cursed to be as good as his job as he is. Okay, maybe he's just a high charisma rogue. Like an assassin rogue? Is James Bond really an assassin? No. So yeah, I'll say high charisma rogue that can, maybe he's multi-classing, like a paladin rogue. Because he does well in a fight. So yeah, paladin rogue, James Bond. Jon Snow. Now, you might think very similar to Aragorn, but he is a fighter. He is only a fighter. He's not even a decent leader. You know, he is like dump stat charisma fighter. He does well as a fighter, though I've heard, not in the books. I haven't actually read the books, but in the films, in the show, he does well as a fighter. So that's what he's going to be. King Kong. Yeah, sure. Druid, permanently in wild shape. Permanently wild shape druid. Can you wild shape while you're raging as a barbarian? Is that a thing you can do? Let me Google this. You can rage during wild shape. There's also that barbarian class, which name I've now forgotten, but I'll put like here. Can you even see my finger there? I'm not actually sure, but I'll keep it there. Yeah, there's that barbarian subclass that is kind of like a bestial thing. Great description there, me. Yep, me in the future. Please fix my past mistakes. You know what I'm talking about. But I think Kong, you know, he's pretty smart. Yes, Kong is a druid, permanently in wild shape. I know that that's not something you can technically do, but maybe he's just, I don't know. I want to put him in barbarian, but I feel like he doesn't necessarily, you know, he doesn't benefit from rage. Though I know he's raging there, and he is tanky, to be honest. Maybe he's a barbarian. You know, he's like he's multi-classing as a barbarian druid. Famous multi-classing combination. Everyone does it nowadays. Now, speaking of multi-classing, I don't know why I said it like that. Why would Tarzan be multi-classing? He's also a ranger, and he's like a beastmaster ranger, I think. But isn't he strong? Isn't Tarzan's thing that he's like strong? A lot of rangers and rogues, but I guess it's two classes. You know, I would almost say he's trying to be a druid. He's trying to like wild shape into a chimpanzee or something, but he's just constantly failing to do so. So that'd be fun. A ranger trying to be a druid, but he just can't. But you know, he would be a monk. He would be a monk, like fighting without weapons and stuff. But for now, I'm gonna say ranger, like a beastmaster ranger. Now here's a druid. Caesar is a druid, right? Okay, listen. Maybe he's not voluntarily a druid. He's forced into druiddom, but he isn't wild shaping into an ape. He's just wild shaping very slowly into a human. Because the virus is it reverses things, right? It makes humans dumb and very slowly deteriorates their brains till the point where they're monkeys and basically they die eventually. But apes are doing like the opposite. And so because of that, I think Caesar is a druid. He's just merged, you know, whether he wild shaped from man to ape and is just stuck or the other way around doesn't really matter, but he's a druid. But he's just, unlike Kong, he actually is a druid, and he isn't like a barbarian. He's just straight druid. Zorro. Well, he must be a fighter. I was inclined to go ranger. Is he a bard? Listen, a rapier is it's not uncommon for bards to use rapiers, but it is uncommon for fighters to use rapiers. He wouldn't be a fighter. He's too dexterous to be a fighter, I feel like. So maybe he is a ranger, but I don't want to put more things in ranger. I just don't. And, you know, he uses his charisma to... Okay, don't get me wrong. I'm not too up to date again with my Zorro lore. It's been a while since I watched any Zorro films, but you know, he rally people to be on his cause. He's a freedom fighter. He's charismatic. He's like James Bond in kind of ye olde times. So I'm gonna say he's a bard. I'm sure he plays like the Spanish guitar or something. He must be able to. Yes. He's a bard, and I'm going to stand by it. Legolas. Now, look, this is where people always get them mixed up. Legolas is a fighter, where Aragorn is a ranger, and you would always think the other way around because Legolas uses bows and arrows. But, you know, he also uses swords. And Legolas, he just has a bow and arrow, I think, because it's really cool. But he can use whatever weapon he uses, and I think that's a key ingredient there. He can use any weapon. Like he is a master in weaponry. And he can always fight. He might be a high dexterity fighter, but he's definitely a fighter. He can win any fight with any weapon. Doesn't matter what he uses. But he's not very he might live in a forest, but he's not like especially known to be in tune with nature. Unlike Aragorn, who is very much in tune with nature. And Aragorn kind of is the closest thing Lord of the Rings has to half elves. Again, don't get me started on Lord of the Rings lore. Please stop, or I won't stop. So, stop asking me to go into Lord of the Rings lore. Yeah, he's a fighter. He can beat anyone on this list, probably. Maybe not Gandalf. Maybe he would struggle with Darth Vader. Who knows? Maybe not Aragorn as well. Nah, he probably beat Aragorn, I think. Oh, I hate saying that because I love Aragorn more, but maybe he would beat Aragorn. Oh, and Frozone would probably. He would struggle against Frozone, I'll give him that. Okay, that's it. No more. This is a different video another time. Miles Morales. Miles, where do you go? He's not quite a sorcerer. He didn't really learn. Well, are you a sorcerer, Miles? Because he didn't really do anything to get his power. He just got bitten by a spider. I don't know about the comic books. Like, I don't know about the comics, if it's any different in that, but in Into the Spider-Verse, he just got bitten by a spider. I'm almost tempted to say Druid, because he wild shapes into a spider, get it? But no, he doesn't actually wild shape into a spider. Sorcerer sounds weird, and he has a very specific skill set. Spider climb. Is he like a weird rogue sorcerer multi-class or something? Like an arcane trickster rogue and then a sorcerer? Though arcane rogues can also just take spider climb. Arcane tricksters, I mean. That might be... Nah, but... I mean, he's also sneaky, stealthy. He's got his invisibility. Yeah. Arcane trickster rogue with multi-classing into sorcerer to get his, like, lightning powers. Sure. Yeah, let's do it. Sure. Yep. Morpheus. Now, if Morpheus is not a cleric, I mean... If he is not absolutely devoted, though, is he devoted to a mythical? He's not devoted to like an idea rather than divine being. Though you can argue that Neo isn't divine being. Ooh, that makes things tricky. But it doesn't matter. I think because he is so incredibly competent in a fight, though clerics are also incredibly competent in a fight. But I'm going to say paladin, just because Morpheus will absolutely beat the shit out of you. Yeah, sure. And he is the most devoted man you'll see. Like, he has taken an oath and he takes it seriously. You know, this man will fight for his oath forever. And he will never break his oath. Yes, he is a paladin. Peter Pan can die. I don't know why I had so much hatred towards Peter Pan there, but I do. I don't want to put another thing in Rogue. Is he really even roguish? Is he a warlock? No, right? He's not a warlock. What even is Peter Pan? He can fly. Sorcerers can cast fly, but I don't see why he'd be a sorcerer. He has a thing is his little dagger is just giving rogue. I don't know why, but currently I'm very annoyed by Peter Pan, so I'm just gonna leave him at rogue and not think about him anymore. Popeye. You may not be able to see it well, but this is Popeye. Popeye is a barbarian, obviously. Like, he eats his spinach, and that's basically him going into rage. He becomes stronger, advantage on his strength, saving throws, strength checks. He is strong. One could argue that he's a monk. I would not disagree, just because unarmed fighting. But you know, barbarians don't need weapons to fight. Sure, he's strong, and that's all there is to him. Yeah, absolutely barbarian. No doubt about it. Mickey Mouse. I don't know. A bard? What does Mickey Mouse even do? He's a detective in some comics. I used to be big on like all the Disney comics. He's a detective sometimes. Is he charismatic? Would you say Mickey Mouse is charismatic? He's smart, but he doesn't have magical abilities, so he's not a wizard. He's not a druid. He's not a fighter, that's for sure. He's not a paladin. Is Mickey Mouse religious, do you think? Is he a cleric? I doubt it. Ranger, maybe a rogue, but I don't see him stabbing anyone. But is he charismatic enough to be a bard? You know, in Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, he does sing. And for that reason, he's now a bard. So yeah, have fun with that. Thanos, I'm inclined to say paladin. This is an interesting one, because he does have interesting magic when he has the Infinity Stones, but he needs an item for that. So he's not... I'm going to say paladin, because he is charismatic enough, clearly, to abuse his daughters for years and years and years That was not a sentence I thought I was going to say at all. He's charismatic enough to lead an army, but he also is really strong. He's got strong armor, he's got big weapons. Paladin works for me, I think, though Fighter also would work, but just because he dips into a bit more magic with the Infinity Stones. And I know that that's not necessarily Thanos himself, but I feel like it's so... Again, I'm not big on Marvel comics. I don't know much about Thanos outside of the MCU. So maybe, he doesn't usually care about the Infinity Stones. But to me, as someone who's only seen the MCU, the Infinity Stones seem kind of essential to his character almost. So yeah. Ariel. I've been looking forward to this one because she's a warlock. She is a warlock. Like, absolutely. She takes on a pact with some evil being to gain powers that others of her race do not possess. She is 1,000,000% a warlock, and she pays a big price, and it's all for greedy reasons. Like, she is 100% a warlock. And the whole film is just her arc from I want this thing, signs a pact, literally signs a deal with a sort of devil. I don't need to waste any more words on it. She's a warlock. Willy Wonka. Now, Willy, what would you be? Would you say Willy Wonka is a wizard? Because, chocolate is kind of like alchemy. Not just chocolate, I know, but mostly chocolate. He's known for his chocolate. It's kind of like alchemy. And, he's kind of like a funny old man. And it's like he does magic at times. Again, Artificer might work. Nah. Wizard, for the same reason as Walter White, but he is a very different wizard from Walter White. He is not too concerned with fighting as much, even though Walter White's not a big fighter, is he? I think he just wants to trick people, and he just wants to have fun. So maybe he's like, he dips into rogue every now and then, just for fun. Sure, that's Willy Wonka. And finally, there's Yoda. Now, I'm inclined to say he's a paladin, just like Darth Vader. But the thing is, Yoda doesn't want to rely on his lightsaber too much. And I know that he fights in the prequels and stuff. And I love the prequels, don't get me wrong, but I feel like that kind of that kind of misses the point of Yoda. I feel like he is so strong in the Force that he wouldn't have to use a lightsaber. But also, he's just like a funny little man, He's just like a guy. I was gonna say cleric, because I feel like I'm not stuttering at all. That would go well with the whole healing and finding yourself. You could see the Force as a sort of divine thing. You could say sorcerer, like a spellblade, because technically he did just get his power. Thank you, George Lucas, for the midichlorians. We know now that Yoda just has very high midichlorian count. So yeah, thanks, I guess. So he could be a sorcerer. I like the sorcerer route. He's a spellblade sorcerer. Is that what spellblades do? I guess he has a lightsaber, so he could also be a warlock, like a hexblade. But I don't think that works very well. Sorcerer or cleric? I really want to put him in cleric, but I feel like sorcerer is calling to me. That's what I'm gonna go for. Cool. This is the whole list. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's perfect. If you wanna do this list yourself, I'll link it down in the description. I hope you enjoyed watching. If you did, please like and subscribe. Subscribe to the Patreon as well. Not much on the Patreon right now, but if you just want to support me, then that would be amazing, because life is expensive. So yeah, I hope to see you in the next video. This was just a little in-between video to keep my video count up. But it was really fun. Next week, we're going to make that Beholder villain. So if you haven't watched the other Beholder video that I did last Tuesday, then go and watch it. Nope, it was on Monday. I lied. So go and watch it. It came out on Monday. Whenever this comes out, it will be Monday the 9th, I think. I'm not even going to correct myself in the edits if I was wrong, because I'm so sure of myself. So yes, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely day, and bye-bye.